Hello, everyone. On today's IRS Tax Refund Update, as we officially begin the start of the 2023 tax season, we'll take a look at those key dates and important factors that may cause delays in receiving those tax refunds on time this year. Meanwhile, there's still those who continue to wait on their 2022 tax refunds, so we'll check in on that as well, and the next refund release dates for those still waiting. And we'll also take a look at some of the key notices the IRS has sent out in the past week to impacted taxpayers. Now, starting off as today marks the official start of the 2023 tax season, as the IRS has begun to accept individual tax returns for tax year 2022 and will begin to immediately process those alongside the remaining backlog from last year. The filing deadline will be on April 18th, unless you're in one of the counties in California under a disaster declaration, in which case your federal tax filing deadline is now May 15th. Now, while a majority of tax returns will be processed in a timely manner, there are going to be delays for some in receiving those refunds. If you're claiming the Earned Income Tax Credit or Child Tax Credits, please remember the IRS cannot begin to process your tax returns until mid-February due to federal law. Now, the IRS has stated the first batch of refunds for those early filers claiming EITC or CTC will be sent out starting February 28th. Also, if you're claiming either one of these credits, you should see an updated status when checking Where's My Refund by February 18th. Now, unfortunately, some of the leading causes of refund delays last year are more than likely to continue this year, and you should be prepared for those, including refund delays due to the need for taxpayers to complete ID verification. Now, this was one of the top problems last year, and for impacted taxpayers, they were supposed to receive this 5071C letter from the IRS notifying them what to do. However, in countless cases, the taxpayers never received this letter in the mail, which left them completely unaware of the reason behind their delay. This is why it is important to check those tax transcripts for the most up-to-date information and to be on the lookout for code 971, which means the IRS has issued you a notice. For those of you who do not know how to access your tax transcripts, we provided instructions on how to register for an account on the irs.gov website and to access all of your tax transcripts in our last video. Oftentimes, tax transcripts provide more accurate information compared to the Where is My Refund page on the IRS website. For those claiming the Earned Income Tax Credit or Child Tax Credit in particular, we saw a significant number of taxpayers last year undergo audits and the IRS requesting documentation for their dependents, even if the taxpayer had been claiming the same dependent for multiple years prior. Impacted taxpayers will receive the CP75 notice in the mail, as seen here, requesting specific documentation in order to satisfy the audit, including birth certificates and proof the dependent resided with you during the tax year. Now, many of our regular viewers are too familiar with the 60-day notice. Now, we saw two versions of this notice last year, and this one specifically states the IRS is waiting on the taxpayer's account information to be available on their computer system. What we saw in many instances in regards to this was the IRS was still needing to process the taxpayer's employer or former employer's taxes. Now, why this is important is the IRS must verify the wages you entered on your tax return versus what your employer reported to check for discrepancies. However, in addition to the backlog of individual tax returns, the IRS saw a backlog of employer tax returns, which helped cause this chain reaction of delays. We also saw instances where the IRS never received tax information from employers, so it is important for you to save a copy of that W-2 as well as the last pay stubs for 2022 in case the IRS requests you submit those yourself so that they can continue the processing of your tax return. This happened to many viewers, unfortunately, who had to take the steps themselves so they could receive that refund. For those who filed paper returns, they experience some of the longest waits as the IRS has to manually enter each tax return into the system. Do note if you file a paper tax return, you will not see any update on the IRS website until actual processing begins, which could be months. If you want to ensure your tax return was received, please send it with tracking. Now, that will not speed up the processing of your return, but at least it will confirm that it was in fact received by the IRS. Also, a reminder to double check that the right banking information is entered on your tax return. We saw numerous instances last year where the wrong bank account was entered for those opting for direct deposit. If this happens to you, once the IRS receives that direct deposit back as rejected, they will issue you out a paper check, usually within 30 days to the address on file, in addition to sending you this notice informing you what has happened. Now, moving on to those who are still waiting on the 2022 tax refunds, the next release date for direct deposit refunds is scheduled for January 25th. Now, do allow up until January 30th to receive that in your bank account, and paper refunds will be sent out again on January 27th. However, while most will receive those within the 7 to 10 days, you must wait 30 days to initiate a payment trace with the IRS if you've not received it. We will have to wait and see how bad delays this tax season are compared to last year. However, the two positives we see starting off this year is the fact the backlog of tax returns entering this year is less than half of what it was going into last year, as well as there are no advanced child tax credit payments issued in 2022. Now, the advanced CTC payments did result in issues with millions of tax returns that had to be corrected manually, which led to further delays for even those who are not claiming the credit, as it took resources away from other processing. Let us know in the comments section about your ongoing tax issue, including when and how you plan to file this year. In the meantime, we'll keep monitoring the situation for further developments, so make sure to click on the thumbs up and subscribe button below for future updates on this channel, and thanks for watching.